Hey guys.
Hi guys. Welcome to Soul Sunday. Melissa's here and Amy's with me today, and today we are continuing our magical creature series, our magical month of March. And if you missed our video from last week, you can go find it on our business pages. They were shared.
Yes.
We talked about gnomes. So this week we are talking about prosperity, and the two magical creatures that we have associated with prosperity are leprechauns and dragons in different ways. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Before we get started, I wanted to just kind of highlight some of the stuff we have happening this week. Along the lines of prosperity, Amy has a really great class that's going to be happening this week, Tarot and Prosperity. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Really focusing on prosperity and abundance as our birthright. And we'll be talking about the different steps towards prosperity. And each step will have a correlating tarot card. And we'll talk about how that tarot card correlates to that step towards prosperity. We will talk about tarot cards that specifically talk about prosperity as a way to, as a lens by which we look at the cards to understand deeper truths, deeper meanings, a deeper relationship to them. But then we're also going to learn a prosperity spell that utilizes your tarot cards at the end of the class, which is, I've had great results with it, so.
Awesome. And if you guys have been attending some of Amy's tarot classes, she has a whole series that she's working through. As we progress through the year, she's going to have other tarot card classes and workshops that kind of not only teach you how to use the cards, but also go over different concepts and different ways that you can use tarot in your practice, whatever that looks like for you.
Right. Well, when you did that tarot boot camp, which went really, really well, it was a great class, but as I was teaching it, this 4-week class, it was like all of these things kept coming up. It's like, I wish I had enough time to cover this. I wish I had enough time to cover this. I wish I would have had enough time to cover this. So every month I will be doing a class that
a deep dive
covers the things I wish I would have had time to talk about. There's so many lenses to look at tarot through.
Yeah.
And there's so many ways to learn about it.
Yep.
So I'm trying to get them all covered. I'm trying to get at it from every angle.
And if you are attending the classes, or if you're not attending the classes but you'd still like to practice tarot, we do have our tarot club that meets. It's a free meetup that happens every Thursday in Canonsburg and every Tuesday in Dormont. So you guys are always welcome to join us for that group. It's a fantastic way to practice, have other people reflect on your readings, help you understand the deeper meanings, and see how other people also read their cards and read your cards. So it's a great community. We have some really great people that join us for those things, and we would also invite you to that as well. So and then I am going to be doing down in Canonsburg, we have our mediumship class this week. Last week we had it up in Dormont. Fantastic class. If you guys attended that class, leave a comment below and just let us know your thoughts on that so everyone can see that. And if you attended any of Amy's classes and you have any feedback, leave that for us as well so everyone can see how you guys like the class and what your thoughts were. But this coming week, we do have the mediumship class in Canonsburg. There are still seats available in that class. So I would encourage you guys to check that out. If you have questions, just send me a message. I'm happy to answer them for you. And then I think that's what we've got going on this week. Okay, so let's talk about some magical creatures, leprechauns and dragons. So the first thing we want to start with, I think, is leprechauns. So leprechauns are usually associated with money, prosperity. And the idea is that these little guys with their little beards and their hats and their green outfits are keeping money. They are storing money and they're hiding it in these little pots of gold. And I think everyone's pretty familiar with the pot of gold. But leprechauns represent luck and prosperity because the mythology behind the leprechaun and the story about the leprechaun is that a farmer and his wife were gardening one day, and he pulled a carrot up out of the ground and there was a little leprechaun attached to it. And if you catch a leprechaun, the leprechaun has to give you wishes. In some stories it's 1 wish, other stories it's 3 wishes.
So in exchange for their freedom.
In exchange for their freedom. Right. So you catch a leprechaun.
They don't want to live with you. They have better things to do.
They don't want to be your
They want to dance.
They do. They want to dance. They're cobblers, right? So they make shoes because they dance so much they wear through their shoes, so they learned a skill. Leprechauns are actually they're kind of in the fae family. They're a type of fairy, a type of magical fairy, but they are the only fae that really have a trade,
A vocation
of shoemaking. So if you didn't know that, leprechauns are cobblers. But anyway, so the farmer pulls this carrot out. There's a leprechaun attached to the carrot. He has caught a leprechaun. The leprechaun gives him a wish. The farmer got greedy and wished for everything. He said he wanted everything, all of the wealth, all of the money, all of the things. And the leprechaun, being the trickster that he is, because they are tricksters, the leprechaun said, "Oh, I'll give you that and more. All you have to do is find my pot of gold that I've hidden." And the farmer agreed and let the leprechaun go. And the pot of gold was never a real thing. And so the farmer spent his entire life wasting his time going in search of this easy wealth, this easy money, when instead he could have been steadily working and building his own prosperity from the ground up, just sort of hardworking. And so the leprechaun teaches us some valuable lessons about greed, about excess, about trying to take the easy way out financially.
Because the thing about prosperity, the way that it's perceived and has been perceived for some time in a way that is absolutely destructive to everyone, is the idea of everything for myself. I want to have everything, and I want to have an abundance of it, and I want to hoard it, and I want to keep it, and I want to have it all. Where the truth about prosperity is that prosperity means that there's enough for everybody. It means having enough for your comfort so that you can thrive, and also so that you can see the people around you thriving. It's not about keeping it for yourself. Keeping it for yourself is the opposite of prosperity. It's lack, and creates lack. And yeah, the concept of spending your whole life looking for this very easily attained like wealth hoard to keep for yourself it ultimately ends to the ruin of the farmer and the waste of his life and
Waste of his time.
You know, all of the things that he wanted, the prosperity that he wanted was never attainable to him because of his perspective about wealth and prosperity.
Right. Yeah. You know, and that brings us to this discussion to dragons, I guess, at this point, because it's about destruction.
Yeah.
And you know, the idea of a dragon and the fact that dragons also hoard wealth is, you know, that the more you're hoarding this wealth, you become a target. You become the thing of envy of other people, because you're not being generous with your wealth. You're not being generous with your prosperity.
Well, and you're creating lack. You're harming people around you, right? Dragons are the villain in the story because in hoarding all of the wealth and keeping it for themselves, they are creating poverty and hunger and sickness and illness for all of the people around them. The people, the townspeople and the knights that go after them aren't really going after the wealth because they're being greedy. It's because they're suffering for lack of resources, and that's what makes the dragon the villain.
Right. Yeah, and you know, the flip side of that, if we look at that from the perspective of the knight, there's also a lesson in the existence of the dragon about working hard for that which you get. Attaining the wealth of a dragon via this brave knight sort of conquering is really about rewarding bravery, rewarding hard work, rewarding the struggle to get the work that's needed to be put in to get the prosperity and the wealth that you earned. It's about earning. And so both of these magical creatures are really speaking towards earning and the destruction that comes from just taking and wishing and being greedy with it and hoarding.
Speaking towards earning and speaking towards what is it that you plan to do with that prosperity? Is it to help your people and yourself, and is it to create prosperity around you, or is it to sit on it, and is it to have everything for yourself? And that perspective, the difference of those two perspectives, indicate who the villain and who the hero is in the story.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me with prosperity is this concept of the more you give, the more you receive. And so, you know, as we are generous and we release our fear of, you know, not having enough, we find ourselves in the place where we are provided for. We have enough. I mean, having enough is such a powerful concept, because we live in a world of consumerism. We live in this world where we are consuming stuff with this voracious appetite we have. And we often get excess and not realize that it's excess.
We think that we need a lot more than we really need.
Right. I know myself. I could walk through my home and I could throw away so many things that are excess in my life, things I don't need, things I haven't used. And I'm sure there's many of you out there who could also do that, go through your personal stuff and realize that there's so much of it that you don't even need. You can just get rid of. It's excess.
Yeah. Well, and the idea that when only I am doing well, if I'm doing well and doing well, I'm keeping all of the resources to myself. I'm actually, the opposite happens. Not only do I suffer, but everyone around me suffers. When I'm doing well and I use what I have to ensure that other people do well too, then I do better. I'm more provided for. I'm more abundant when the people around me are also doing well.
Right. Yeah. Prosperity is a collaborative thing.
It's communal.
It's communal. It's communal and it's collaborative. And in my experience, there's always enough for everyone as long as you sit in that mindset.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done for sure.
Oh, yeah. This is a process because we're conditioned to think this way.
And fear is a powerful emotion as well. And financial prosperity or financial lack, financial lack creates a lot of fear for people, especially if that's something that you've struggled with your whole life. I mean, maybe you came from poverty, maybe you have been in a very desperate situation at different points in your life. Maybe you are now, and it creates that fear that causes us to stay in that cycle of lack. And so, sort of shifting that mindset, I think, is really important towards, getting yourself out of that space.
The scarcity mindset says there's not enough for everybody, so I have to ensure mine, right?
Right.
The prosperity mindset says there's enough for everyone, and I don't have to keep it all for myself. The prosperity mindset says that the more I have, the more that I want to give back. The prosperity mindset says that when someone else is doing well, that doesn't mean less for me. It means that there's enough for everyone.
And I think also, and this just came to me, and it's interesting. So they say that the saying is that when you're in a space where you're crunched, when you're in this space of actual lack, right? When you have that lack and you're sitting there and you're like, how do I get out of this? This is where innovation is born. This is where creativity shines. And when you're in those desperate situations, this is when our instinct to survive, our instinct to create and generate and get ideas kicks in. And so I think it's, in those desperate moments of lack where we find inspiration to approach our problems differently, to explore solutions to things that maybe we hadn't considered before. So, if you're feeling like you're in that place of lack, maybe sit there for a second and consider whether or not you are being aware of all the options that you have, all of the personal power that you have in order to help pull yourself out of that space and find your prosperity sweet spot again.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think considering what do I have in abundance, right? Because it may not be money. It may not be material things or finances, but everybody has something in abundance. And we have sort of our mindset, what we've been taught to believe is that when you have money in abundance, that's more valuable than other things, but it isn't. And when we are generous with what we have in abundance, we get back and where we're lacking. What do I have in abundance? Be generous with that, and where you're lacking will come to you.
Yeah.
I am generous, therefore I'm abundant. I'm abundant, therefore I am generous. That is cyclical.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's our conversation for today.
I think it is.
Leave us some comments if you guys have questions or anything to add to the conversation. Go ahead and drop some comments. You can find our videos on YouTube. You can also find us on Facebook and on Instagram. The shop's handles are Well Oiled, either Canonsburg or Dormont. Well Oiled Canonsburg, Well Oiled Dormont. On YouTube, I think we're Well Oiled on Dormont as well. On YouTube as well.
Yep.
So, all right, guys. Hey, we are so glad you joined us today. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Hope to see you in the shops this week, and we'll see you later.
Thanks, guys.